My engagement party was supposed to be the best day of my life. The room was filled with soft music, candles, and the smell of roses and champagne. People were laughing, drinking, and saying congratulations to me and Daniel, the man I loved and had spent 6 years with. But, behind all the smiles and happy sounds, my family was planning something I could never forgive. It started 2 weeks before the party. My mother called me into the kitchen, using her fake sweet voice, the one she used when she wanted something from me. "You know your brother's wedding is coming up," she said, playing with her necklace, "and you haven't really used that $100,000. Grandpa left you for your own wedding?" I felt myself tense up because I'm saving it for my wedding. "Well, Justin's wedding is first," she said with a sick-looking smile, "and he really wants to have it at that resort in Cancun. It would mean so much if you would let us borrow the money." I couldn't believe it. "You want me to give him my wedding money?" "Not give," my father said, appearing in the doorway. "Just lend it. You and Daniel can just have a small party in the backyard. You're not a flashy person anyway." I stared at them. "You want me to make my future smaller for his big party?" My mom frowned. "It's not about you, Ava. Your brother is the only son, and he's marrying into the Thompson family. They have important friends, and what about Daniel? What about me?" I asked, shocked. "You'll understand when you're older," my dad said coldly, and walked away like the talk was over. But I didn't give them the money. For 2 weeks, things at home were awful. They tried to make me feel guilty. They tried to trick me. My mom even cried and told our relatives that I was refusing to help my brother. I ignored their dirty looks and the way they would stop talking when I walked into a room. Daniel kept telling me, "You don't owe them your future, Ava." And for once I believed him. I chose myself. But I never thought they would get back at me like this. The night of my engagement party, everything was perfect, until my brother showed up late, obviously drunk, and threw his jacket on a chair like he owned the place. My father gave him a nod and then looked around the room for me. When he saw me standing with Daniel by the cake, his face got dark. He walked over slowly, trying to look calm but clearly very angry. "We need to talk," he said through his teeth. "In the middle of my engagement party?" I said. "You're embarrassing this family," he whispered, grabbing my arm. Daniel stepped in. "Sir, please," but my dad pushed him back. "Stay out of this." The music stopped. Every guest turned as my father's voice got louder. "You selfish girl. You owe your brother everything. You don't deserve this party." I tried to get away, but he held my wrist tighter, his eyes looking crazy. "Give him the damn money or I swear," and then it happened. He slapped me hard, right in front of 50 people. My earring went flying. My head snapped to the side and time just stopped. My mother gasped, but it sounded more like she was embarrassed, then scared for me. Justin laughed nervously and took a sip of his drink. Daniel rushed to my side, holding my face, shaking with anger. "You just hit your daughter," he said. "At her own engagement party. She asked for it," my dad snapped back. "She's not grateful. We raised her and this is how she thanks us." I stood there holding my burning cheek and stared at the man who had just broken the last piece of me that wanted to be part of his family. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I turned to Daniel and whispered, "Let's go." We left the party without saying another word. The silence we left behind was heavy. I could feel people judging me, whispering, the whole ugly story just beginning. But I didn't care because something inside me had broken in a powerful way. They wanted to take my future. Fine. I would take theirs. And I knew just how to do it. The next morning my cheeks still hurt, but it was the silence that really bothered me. No one called to apologize. Not my mom, not my dad, not Justin. They acted like it never happened. Daniel made me breakfast trying to act normal, but I could see how tense he was. "You need to do something," he said softly. "This isn't just about a slap. They made you feel so small and they'll do it again." I nodded, but I already had a plan. I had been holding on to a piece of paper for years, something my parents had probably forgotten about. You see, my grandfather left me $100,000 for my wedding, but that wasn't all he did. Before he died, he quietly signed the deed of their house, his house, over to me. He told me, "One day they'll forget you're their daughter. When they do, you'll need this to remind you that you have power." I didn't really get it then, but now I did. I pulled the papers from a locked drawer. There it was. Property deed, owner, Ava Jennings, signed and official. They had no idea I was the legal owner of their home. My grandfather had skipped the usual process because he never trusted them. He trusted me. I made some calls. My lawyer, a tough but kind woman named Lenora, looked at the papers and said everything was legal. "You have the full right to sell this house," she said. "Just tell me when." I didn't say yes right away. I wanted them to see it coming first. I sent them a fancy-looking letter telling them there was a review of the property ownership, It wasn't a threat, just a warning. 2 days later, my mom called. "Ava, what is this letter?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Oh," I said. "It's about the house," she laughed. "We've lived here for 20 years. You can't just—" "Actually, I can," I said. "I own it. Grandpa left it to me, not to you." There was silence on the phone. "You're not going to kick us out, are you?" she whispered, not sounding so tough anymore. I smiled a bitter smile. "I'm going to give you the same respect you gave me when Dad slapped me and you just stood there." She tried to make me feel guilty again. "But where will we go? Your father isn't healthy. We've built our life in this house. And I was building mine," I said. "Until you tried to ruin it for a beach wedding and then watched your husband hit your daughter." That's when she started screaming. She called me evil and ungrateful and said she wished she never had me. I let her yell until she ran out of breath. Then I said, "You have 30 days," and hung up. But I wasn't finished. Daniel and I went to Justin's wedding. I showed up in a stylish white pantsuit, my cheek healed, my eyes cold. My brother smiled at me like he had done nothing wrong. "Glad you could finally show your face," he said. I leaned in close. "I hope you enjoy your honeymoon," I whispered, "because when you get back, Mom and Dad won't have a home to welcome you to." He laughed, until he saw that I wasn't joking. 2 weeks later, the sale of the house was final. I sold it not to just anyone, but to a company that was going to tear it down and build something new. The notice was put on their front door in bright red letters: "Property sold. Leave in 14 days. My phone rang and rang. I didn't answer. When they showed up at my apartment crying, I let them stand outside on the lawn. "You think this is fair?" my dad shouted. "No," I said. "But neither was slapping me at my own engagement party or choosing your son over your daughter for 28 years. "We gave you everything," he growled. "You took everything." I corrected him. "Now I'm just doing the same to you." They begged for the first time in my life. They begged me. But I had already moved on. I watched them drive away, their whole life packed into the back of Justin's car. This wasn't about getting even. This was about getting what was fair, and I was just getting started. 3 months after I sold the house, my life was quiet. But I wasn't done healing. People thought I was fine, that I had moved on. But the hurt doesn't just go away because you sell a house and change the locks. The truth is, I spent many nights wondering if I had gone too far, if getting even was just a way to cover up old pain. But then a letter came. It was from my mother. I let it sit on my counter for 2 days. When I finally read it, the words were sharp. "We raised you. We loved you. You're destroying your family because you're hateful. You sold our home and now your father is sick. You've made your point. Are you proud of yourself?" There was no apology, no mention of what they did to me, just more guilt. I burned the letter in a fire pit that night. Daniel stood next to me, silent. He didn't have to say anything. Just him being there told me everything. I wasn't wrong to walk away. 2 weeks later, I got a surprise call from Gregory Harper, the CEO of a big company where I had worked as an intern in college. "Ava," he said warmly, "I've been following your work at the nonprofit. Your latest project on housing is amazing. We're opening a new office in Seattle, and I want you to run it." I almost dropped the phone. "You're offering me a top job?" "Yes," he said. "Full control, a great salary, and the freedom to do what you think is best." I took the job. That night, Daniel and I started packing for our move to Seattle. As I got into my new job, there was a big company party in Los Angeles. I went back to town to give a speech, not knowing it would be shared all over the internet. I told my story, not every ugly part, but enough. I talked about how families can hurt each other, about how love isn't always a given, and about how sometimes the people who are supposed to build you up try to tear you down instead. The room was silent, and then everyone started clapping. When I left the stage, a young woman stopped me. "Your story saved me," she said, with tears in her eyes. "My dad made me give my savings to my brother for law school, and I thought I was the problem, but now I know I'm not." I gave her a hug. I didn't need anyone to tell me I was right, but her words reminded me that my pain had a purpose. 2 weeks later, I was back in my old town for a short trip. As luck would have it, I ran into my brother Justin outside a shopping center. He was thinner, looked messy, and his eyes were dark. He blinked when he saw me get out of a nice black car. "Oh, so the rumors were true," he said. "Which ones?" I smiled. "That you sold the house just to prove you were right?" I tilted my head. "No, I sold it because you and Mom and Dad beat me to it. You sold me out for years." He looked away. "Mom's been sleeping on my couch. That must be fun," I said. He flinched. "You've really changed." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You just never thought I could be this strong when I was planning my comeback." He had nothing to say to that back. In Seattle, my life got brighter. I started a program for women who had been hurt by their families. At the grand opening, I gave one last speech. I was hit at my own engagement party. But that wasn't the day I broke. It was the day I started. To rebuild, we are not the bad things they did to us. We are what we build from the ashes. There was clapping, tears, and a feeling of hope in the room. My parents, I never saw them again. But sometimes I imagine them driving past the place where their house used to be. A modern shelter for single mothers now stands there, paid for by the same money they tried to steal from me, and that is the mark I choose to leave on the world. Not getting even, but starting over.